Okay, I think we're live. Good to go. All right, Trevor, how you doing?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
Yeah. So for anybody watching, thanks for watching, taking some time to look at our debate on the topic of the popular vote replacing the electoral college. I'm going to be on the affirmative side, and Trevor is going to be arguing for the negative. I'll go first. So what I have written down is basically saying it is time to abolish the electoral college in favor of a single national popular vote where all votes count equally. The electoral college is responsible for disenfranchising, in effect, huge swaths of American voters, said Doug McAdam, a professor of sociology who studies American politics. A single national popular or constituency vote would determine the president based on who won the most votes total across the country. Under the U.S. Constitution, the Electoral College determines who is the U.S. president based on total votes in each state. The candidate receives a majority of electoral votes, which is 270 electoral votes, and they win the presidency. Each state's number of electors is equal to its number of members of Congress, representatives plus senators. Washington, D.C. also has 3 electors, so the total number of Electoral College members is 538. A stat on that: 4 out of 5 Americans exercised no real electoral voice in the 2012 presidential election due to the winner-take-all electoral college system, which made campaigns focus on the handful of battleground states, which were up for grabs heading into the election. So basically, these battleground states, if you, it kind of stands true. I'll list off the ones from 2012, but like basically this year, it's a good timing for this debate and everything. Like Pennsylvania, Georgia, and I want to say Florida, I guess, was one. North Carolina and Virginia was, but not this year. But basically, these states have controlled the election since I've been alive and since what I remember, since I followed politics. Those those 4 or 5 states really just kind of have a grasp on who our next president is, House, Senate, etc. So I just think that if everybody's voice was heard equally, that we'd have a better chance at unity. So going in more to that, if we define battleground states as those where the final margin victory was 5% or less, only 6 of the 50 states qualify. In the 2012 election, it was Colorado at 4%, Florida at 1%, North Carolina 3%, Ohio at 2%, Pennsylvania at 5%, and Virginia at 3%. McAdam noted that the mean of the margin difference in the remaining 44 states was a whopping 19%. Even with such populous states such as Florida, Pennsylvania, and Ohio in the mix, the total population of the 2012 battleground states is barely 20% of the country's total. The current system violates this principle due to its winner-take-all nature. In a close election, voters in one or more of the battleground states may determine the outcome of the contest. What about all those citizens who reside in non-competitive states? Consider the loyal Republican who lives in California, or the stalwart Mississippi Democrat. Every 4 years, voting for them is an exercise in political powerlessness, at least when it comes to the presidential race. Eliminating the Electoral College would empower voters, likely driving up voter registration and voting rates, while creating a greater focus on issues and not states in the presidential races. No single reform would deliver on this promise more than this one. The electoral weight of the citizens should not vary from one place to another based on the distorting effect over the senatorial bump, which refers to overrepresentation of small states in the Electoral College due to their 2 Senate-based electors. Jack Revoke, a professor of history and of political science, said the Electoral College issue vexed the framers at the 1787 Constitutional Convention down to their final days of debate. They were not sure how it would work in practice. Said the last 3 U.S. presidents have all suffered from attacks on the legitimacy of their election, fueled in part by the perception of a nation largely divided into red and blue states. I mean, if we even look at that today, a lot of people think the Constitution's outdated and certain things, laws, and bills should be changed. But I mean, if you look at it today, the biggest thing we need right now is unity and for everybody to have an equal voice and for everybody to be heard. I mean, we both know as we live in California, I'm a Republican. I don't know about you, but I feel like my voice doesn't get heard enough when it comes to these elections. It comes to certain things we vote on and certain props we vote on, etc. So if we think of the electoral map as a tableau of national division, we form a disparaging view of the victor's presidential authority right from the outset. However, if the winning candidate was perceived to be the victor of a truly national election, partisanship might increase. The way to begin the reform process is by establishing a prestigious national commission capable of recommending constitutional change. And that's all I have for that. You got any questions?
Okay, so I heard you mention some stuff about Pennsylvania and a couple of those other states about being battleground states.
Yeah.
And how they can like basically take control over the election.
Mhm.
But like, I guess what about California or Texas when they really do have the mass majority of electoral votes, I guess.
Yeah.
Since they have such a huge population,
Mhm.
their electoral votes tend to be higher than Middle America or some of those smaller states.
Yeah.
Also, so you did mention something about the winner taking it all,
Mhm.
um, or how you, I guess, like how it determines like the winner takes all in the
Mhm.
presidency.
Yeah.
So I guess like if we were to switch to popular vote, um, wouldn't that also mean, I guess, we're doing a winner takes all in that situation as well?
Yeah, so it's just basically, yeah, it would be winner takes all, but like how you mentioned with California and Texas, that's a lot of those states are gimmies. California's been blue since the
Right.
since Ronald Reagan's been president, so it's just
Right.
a lot of those Democrats in Texas have the same issues Republicans have in California. It is a winner takes all scenario, but at the end of the day, I think everybody just wants their voice to be heard and their vote to count because a lot of Republicans and Democrats in certain states where they're either predominantly Republican or Democrat would like their voice to be heard just a little bit more.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess I will go to my constructive speech now.
Okay.
um, so yeah, I'm Trevor, and I'm the negative part of this speech. So basically, the fact of the matter is that the founding fathers actually wrote the electoral vote, or I'm sorry, the electoral college in the U.S. Constitution. And this was the most effective way to see the results of the outcome. I mean, it simply, um, what's the word? It simply compromises with like the popular vote and letting Congress choose the president. Um, so yeah, there's that, and then also the Electoral College guarantees certainty to the outcome of the presidential election. So basically, that means that it gives us, the people, an outcome of the majority. So, yes, it is the majority, but like at the end of the day, it takes each state, which has a certain amount of electoral votes, and basically just kind of like uses those votes and gets what the people want, majority.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it does suck being on the other side, um, not being have your voice heard, or maybe in this situation you're Republican and Donald Trump didn't win, although it could not be over.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so yeah, also it gives the president more credibility, I think. Stated by Britannica, President Obama received 51.3% of the popular vote in 2012, but 61% of the electoral votes. It is also a fact that in 127 years, the winner of the popular vote has lost the electoral vote only 5 times. Um, so, yeah, it provides a clean, widely accepting ending to the election most of the time. disregarding this year, just because with all mainly the problem was just, a vast majority of ballots were mail-in ballots. Um, so there would be no need for a national recount when you have the electoral college. Because if one state has an issue in that certain state, then they can simply do a recount in that certain state. And not when you have a popular vote, it's like that's a national recount, because that's basically getting the majority of the votes, right? Um, so by keeping the electoral college, we ensure that all parts of our country, or I'm sorry, all parts of our nation participates in the direction of our country. So this ensures that the East and the West Coast do not control the destiny of the presidential outcome. Um, Middle America is a stronghold of the conservative part of this country. Um, without without the electoral college, smaller states would get less attention in what people want, or such as Iowa or Ohio, which definitely provide a huge impact on our election. Just because those states provide, it contains farming and ranching and dairy, so which keeps our country alive, you know. But even though this is a vast land, it is much less populated than the more dense um, East and West Coast, which tend to be more liberal areas. Um, because like when you're on the East or West Coast, it's more of your job. I don't want to say job, but you kind of ignore the fact where your food comes in a sense. And we're Middle America, they provide that stuff. Um, so of course they should have a say. Um, Also, in the election, the president needs to win that state, which every state has a specific number of electoral college votes. So the president needs multiple states, right? So therefore, they build their campaign platforms with a national focus, um, which means the president will be serving the needs of the entire country. Um, and that is my constructive speech.
Yeah. So I just have a couple questions, and then we'll get into, I believe, my rebuttal. So, first question, something I had mentioned in my speech, it was, um, let me pull it up right here. Uh, so basically, the Electoral College issued a vex the framers at the 1787 Constitutional Convention. So that's when we adopted the Electoral College system. Do you think there have been changes made to this system in a sense? Basically, what I'm trying to say is, do you think the Electoral College is a little bit outdated to date, or what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on outdated. Um, I don't think it's outdated, really, because like I think it gives you a clear outcome of the election, disregarding this outcome of this election. But yeah, like I think it gives a pretty good widely certainty of what the outcome would be.
Mhm.
So
And
yeah.
then, and so the last question I have, and then we'll get into the rebuttals. Um, do you think there is a better way to go about recounting votes? You said something about how the electoral system, if we go by state, recounting votes in that state would be easier. Versus if we were to go to a popular vote, how you said there'd be a national recall. Do you think that there could still be a system set up if it was to move to a popular vote, that they still just do recount in states? They count the state votes, but obviously, as a nation, it's not the counting the electoral votes. I don't know if that question, I might need to rephrase that, but basically, I think, do you think there is a better way to go about recounting the votes if it were to be popular?
The problem with popular votes, I feel like, could possibly be um, a chance of more like fraud, I guess.
Mm,
Just because, like, like, even though like this election, like, I keep going back to this election because, like, it's
yeah,
here,
there's a
you know.
lot of yeah.
It's a really important one, but yeah, it gives us a lot of room for fraud. Just because, again, this year, I don't know if it's true, but I'm just saying, like, it just gives room for more fraud in the fact that there's more votes going to a certain candidate.
Mm,
Um, so I don't know what would be the best, but I mean, this might be like, this has been working for us, I guess. So
mm,
yeah.
yeah. So thank you for answering those questions, and then I'll kind of kick off my first rebuttal going off of that question. So, if there were vote recounts in each state, the way voting's set up, you either mail in ballots, as we definitely saw this in this election, or you vote in person, or you drop it off in a box. And so basically, these votes are counted at different voting centers across the nation in each state. And so I feel like if we were to move to a popular vote, there still would be an easy way to recount votes in the state and still having a solid number nationwide, just because votes are already counted by each state. It's not all sent to one place and counted in the same place. It's each state does their own process of doing things a certain way. Like in this year's election, Arizona, to try and get ahead of the game, even though they ended up being late on getting votes back. So it even happens in an electoral college. Um, they were late on getting votes back, and they started 2 weeks early. But the main point I just want to hammer down is that I think there's still, even with a popular vote system in place, it would be easy to, you know, count those votes and make sure you do it quickly, swiftly, and efficiently. And the second part of my rebuttal, you brought something out about smaller states having a smaller population and not getting hurt as much. So basically, with the electoral college, each state, like you talked about Ohio and how those are important states for certain parties, and obviously California is important to the Democrats, and Texas is important to the Republicans. But each state has a different setup. So Ohio is not the biggest state, doesn't have the biggest population, but the reason they have the amount of electoral votes that they do is because the way their Congress set up. It's the number of sorry, I'm talking faster than I'm not going, but it's the number of electors they have in place in Congress. So one thing I just think about that there. If you compare Ohio to the state with the similar population, I'm just kind of throwing this out there. Maybe Pennsylvania, probably not even Pennsylvania. I can't think of a state, but if you were to compare a state with the similar population of Ohio, but the electoral college is either gains more votes or less votes, I think it should come down to the people, because at the end of the day, it's our right to vote. It's our right to have our voices heard. And I just think with all this in place that we would have more partisanship amongst each other. And with a popular vote, I think we could definitely eliminate the whole red blue scenario that we have going on. It just shows division in our country. And if we were all to vote together and work together on implementing the system, I think we would be very successful.
Okay. So it's my rebuttal now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So basically, at the end of the day, I feel like these the electoral college, again, it kind of compromises with the popular vote, and I guess Congress choosing the president. But yeah, I feel like like, I feel like we wouldn't get a full outcome if we had the popular vote. Um, just because, again, that goes along with other things that you're voting for as well. Um, I just feel like it doesn't focus on certain problems or maybe certain needs of that state or as a country even. Um, so again, I do think that when these presidential candidates are going out before election day and how holding rallies, they're obviously trying to you know um, get more votes in that state. Um, so that's why certain candidates spend more time in a certain state as well. Um, and yeah, like, and it's not like when you have the electoral college, obviously, like the popular vote is Democrat and then the Congress is going to change to Republican. It doesn't work like that, but like,
Mhm.
um, it's just kind of like, it's basically just the majority of what that state needs at the end of the day, pretty much. But yeah. Um, but yeah, like like smaller states, I'm not sure how much like Iowa or Ohio has. Are you sure? Or do you know how many?
That's the same struggle I had with the
Yeah.
Ohio. I just because it's a smaller state, but it's smaller. But the thing about it, they have so many electoral votes because the way their state congress is set up. And as far as population goes, I don't have those numbers with me. But like,
Yeah.
if you were to compare that to,
But yeah, I don't know. Again, just like, certain states like Maine or something that have four, or Ohio that, just let's just say, I don't know. I don't want to throw a random number out there, but yeah,
the scenario,
basically, yeah. Those states provide, like I said, ranching, dairies, all these. They provide our food
yeah.
at the end of the day, which us East Coast or West Coast people don't have to do on a daily basis like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and then also to go. So now my conclusion with that. In conclusion, I believe that the Electoral College is a fair and certain election. It makes a fair and certain election. As we went over all the reasons, I think it has given us great results and shows us what direction we want to um, take as a country, um, and what the majority want to see. Again, because like when I say the majority, also what I meant by like taking like how like they take how the electoral college kind of compromises with popular vote and Congress choosing it. I meant like basically some people in that state obviously aren't. Some people are uneducated,
Yeah.
right? So basically, Congress makes up for that in a way. So because if you make like the popular vote, obviously some people that are educated are gonna go for the popular vote. That's
Mm-hmm.
just that might be how it is. Um, So yeah, even though obviously not everyone will get their way in the end, but it shows what the majority of this country wants, and what we want to see in the president, right?
Mm-hmm.
So um, it's written in the it's written in the Constitution for a reason, I think, just because that it's the system that works best at the end of the day. So yeah,
So finish this debate off with my summary. Basically, just want to revisit the points I was saying. I think the popular vote is for the people. I think everybody deserves a right and to have a voice. Granted, the Electoral College is based on what our founding fathers thought was best. But all in all, I think times have changed drastically since then. Whether we're talking about technology, people, but issues in the country haven't really changed. I mean, especially in today's age, there's just so much hate and there's just so much going on right now, and nobody can really wrap their head around it. And I feel like if there was some sort of system, not saying this is going to solve every single problem, but if there is some sort of voting system in place, like the popular vote or even a national popular vote, I feel like that we would really see some sort of unity, some sort of us trending in the right direction to solve issues effectively, solve issues amongst people, amongst policies, and amongst other different government officials. I just really feel like that this is the surefire way in a close election for everybody vote to count, not coming down to the last couple states or whatever. I feel like when people like me on the West Coast are watching four states decide who's going to be the next president of the United States, it just makes me feel like I didn't contribute at all, and I really didn't have my voice to be heard. So basically, that's the main point I just wanted to hammer home. Well, just want to thank you for your time, Trevor. You brought up some good
Thank
points.
you.
Yeah, no problem. So hope you have a great rest of your day. And for anybody that's watching this, thank you for your time watching this debate. Feel free to leave a comment on the video and give us some feedback on what we could have done better.
Agree.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.